So, welcome everyone. I'm Alexander Mihalcea, and today we're joined by Theo Mourouzis, CEO of Electi. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure, Alexander. Happy to be here with you to discuss about technology advancements and what we do here at Electi, in general, our view on emerging technologies like blockchain, AI, etc.
Great. And before we dive in, could you give us a quick overview of what Electi does?
Okay, so let me first introduce myself. My name is Theo Mourouzis. I'm the CEO and founder of Electi. Electi is a group of companies that has been around since 2017, and we focus on emerging technologies, especially blockchain, cryptography, and AI. Our motto is to help our customers to leverage emerging technologies so that they can unlock value. We have like quite big clientele across different verticals, governments, military, healthcare, retail. And our aim is to use like technologies, data science, blockchain technologies, AI technologies to deliver them value. So this is in a nutshell what we do.
Okay, that's fascinating. And what inspired you to create Electi? What initially drew you to work in decentralized finance and blockchain in general?
Okay, what was my drive to create Electi is because I understood that the general consulting and technology system was also quite outdated because big organizations were focusing on the old technologies and it was quite difficult to jump to the new ones. You have to educate the whole personnel that you have there. So I thought it would be a good idea to build a technology firm from scratch that will initially focus on these new technologies, and this is what we do is what we did, and we actually realized that data was very, very important back to 2017, and having the proper people to use them and leverage them was also very important. This is from data science point of view, from blockchain. As soon as it came out, my background is in cryptography. I did a PhD at UCL in cryptanalysis specifically. We realize that it's also quite advanced, and if you like gather a good team of cryptographers, blockchain engineers, you will be able to realize the real value of blockchain and use it properly to solve business problems, not just use it for hype. So what we want is to understand how to distinguish signal from noise to these technologies and use them actually to deliver value.
Okay, I see. And also, could you share some insights into your background and your current role in the fintech and DeFi space?
So my background, as I said, is in cryptography. I did a bachelor and a master's degree at the University of Cambridge in mathematics. Then I moved at UCL. I did a PhD in cryptography. And since then, I started my own company, Electi. Started initially as a technology consulting firm, pivoted into like R&D company now, focusing on blockchain and AI. And we also have several products we use across shipping, retail, and different other industries that leverages these technologies to solve specific problems that our clients have.
Okay, I see.
Finance, we have experience in using like blockchain for payment systems, blockchain for streamlining operations related to documents. As you already know, this problem of documents authenticity was quite important before blockchain. Blockchain gave us a way to actually solve any type of forgeries related to documents. That's why we created products that allow companies to streamline the documents life cycles from issuance to validation to revocation using blockchain technologies. And also AI now help us to build AI agents to automate some tasks, but also using large language models in order to for the companies to use in order to educate better their people through the interaction with these bots.
Mhm.
And we've used this in banking sector and in financial services sector and so on.
Okay. So let's go back to when you first started. What major challenges or gaps did you see in the market that made you think this needs to be solved?
Well, I realized that this is a brilliant technology that we have now, like blockchain and AI. It's very hard to find people. I was lucky enough to attract like talent, and I realized that these new technologies are much more advanced because before these technologies appeared, the industry was much more used to using ready-made software by companies like CRMs, ERPs, and so on. But these new technologies, you cannot buy them from on the shelf, right? You have to build them. So the most important is to build a team. And I realized that if I manage to build a good team, I will be able to solve all these important problems. And this is what motivates me. I found the gap that the new technologies created.
Okay. And for example, how are traditional financial institutions responding to the rise of DeFi?
Well, as you know from the beginning, initially financial institutions were reluctant because they were between thinking that the DeFi is related to scam tokens, let's say.
Yeah,
But then they realized that the value was to use the underlying technology in order to streamline their operations. That's why we have several examples nowadays of big conglomerates in financial industry using blockchain technology in order to achieve specific use cases that they want, like payments, authentication, so developing privacy preserving techniques using zero knowledge in order to allow them to onboard the whole securitization sector at some point on the blockchain space using like security tokens. From 2017, from the hype, now we have all the mature use cases and we have real use cases used especially in the banking sector.
okay. And what are the main challenges businesses face when trying to integrate blockchain technology?
Well, I mean, in order to integrate blockchain technology, you have to make certain architecture changes. Okay, if you have some traditional legacy systems, it means that if you have different departments, different stakeholders, all of them running their own blockchains,
Yeah,
their own databases,
yeah.
they don't communicate, so there is a problem of interoperability. But if you manage to how to define well the whole ecosystem, having the roles there, you can onboard them in a blockchain ecosystem in order to streamline the operations. If you are a very big company, that's not a straightforward task, as you know, especially if you want to be 24/7 operational and you have to do this onboarding. It will need some time to actually carefully redesign parts of the architecture and gradually migrating some parts of them into the blockchain stack. But what I want to say here is that blockchain does not solve all the problems, right? It solves only very small problems, but it solves them in a very elegant and rigorous way. Okay, so we have to
Mhm.
be very careful in which use case we are going to use the blockchain technology.
Okay. And so walk us through how Alacti addresses these challenges. What makes your approach unique?
What we do is that we have the proper talent here. That's the most important thing. We have people that are at the PhD level and have built several use cases across different industries. And what we do, we always spend a lot of time with our clients to understand their specific problem. Okay, this will allow us to pretty much derive the proper specifications of the problem and start brainstorming on the potential solutions. We don't hurry to start solving. We need to understand the problem. And sometimes we say that no blockchain is needed here or not advanced AI is needed here. It's just data science. So what we do here very well is we spend a lot of time to understand the problem, strategize the solution, and bring some of the emerging technologies that we master here in order to bring more value.
And for example, when you talk to potential clients, what's the biggest misconception they typically have about what you do?
What's the biggest?
Misconception.
You mean what we didn't realize or
So, when you talk to potential clients, what's the biggest misconception of there they typically have about what you do?
okay, that's a great question. I mean, sometimes our clients want something before because they have actually heard it somewhere.
Hmm.
Like we want AI, we want blockchain, we want zero knowledge proofs. And most of the cases, this is not the case. They can solve their problems with traditional technologies. The biggest misconception is that they think the technology will solve the problem with
Yeah,
not a lot of effort or the technology solves the problem. This is not the case. Technology, tools solve specific problems, spend time to understand the problem, and then trying to implement the solutions to pretty much amplify it and make this
right.
like smaller one. It's not always the case that the technology will solve your problem. This is the one very big misconception, not only for us, but for all technology firms.
Okay. And also, could you share a specific success story of a client who saw significant results using your solution?
Well, I mean, we have a lot of success stories across different sectors. In shipping, we managed to work with the biggest shipping company in the world, and we built them a solution in order to streamline the operation in regards to the certification cycle of the training department of their seafarers, and this reduced a lot the time taken to verify documents, eliminate 100% of forgeries, and so on. And this is being used across like different other shipping companies now. It's quite a successful product. And we have lots of successes in the AI sector. We've built medical detectors using deep learning techniques in order to understand where to put better sterns, for example, in case you have heart problems or cancer detection. We use also advanced AI techniques in different in insurance companies that have their apps in order to classify better the driving behavior of their customers and so on. So what we do here, we always understand, build, and measure. We want all of our stories to be successful, okay? But
Yeah.
we want to deliver value.
Now, looking at the broader industry, what key trends are you seeing emerge?
Other technologies, right? I mean, AI now is booming. Blockchain is becoming more mature. It's not as hyped as before. Blockchain moved from a hype to very mature projects now. That's why you see like zero knowledge proofs, ZK snarks, ZK stars, focusing more on infrastructural layers like identities, building identities, decentralizing the systems, privacy preserving techniques using ZK proofs, and also moving away from like the before 10 years idea, which was to tokenize everything and so on. Now we move into tokenizing real assets, following proper procedures, so that we can do things more correct. Also, other technologies that we see, AI, of course, is booming now. It's at the super hype. Okay, and what we are going to see in the next few years, also quantum technology. And quantum technology, as you know, it will be also a threat to blockchain. So the research done in blockchain has to be revised again because of all these architectures that we know based on public key cryptography, especially elliptic curve digital signature algorithms, will be broken with the quantum computers, and we have to migrate to the new standards that are quantum resistant.
Okay, okay. And because you mentioned this, how can traditional banks better prepare for integration of blockchain technology and quantum technology?
Okay, in terms of quantum technology first, they need
Yeah.
to start preparing because all these PKI systems that they are using, either for like internal data flows or for accessing their customers through the public web, will be broken. We know that quantum algorithms will be able to break all these digital signatures. And what does this mean? If I break a digital signature, it means that I have access to your funds. It
Mhm.
means that I can do impersonation attack. It means that I can break the SSL protocol and pretty much decrypt all the traffic and get all the private information. So what they do is that they need to start preparing for a migration into the new standards. At the first, they need to do some what we call cryptographic asset inventory, where they need to understand at which places in their architecture all these potentially vulnerable algorithms are being used, start redesigning the algorithms based on the new standards that are out there by NIST. This is not a trivial task at all because the new standards have come with several challenges like key sizes, key storage, and so on. It's like a completely new world. And they need to carefully start building like a mirror architecture where the potentially primitives will be replaced by the quantum resistant one, and this has to be gradual. It cannot happen in one day. It needs a few years actually to get prepared for it. And by 2013, we know that everybody needs to be on board in quantum resistant algorithms. Now, in terms of blockchain, they need first of all to understand what use case they want to build. They need to understand what are the stakeholders involved in this new use case. They need to understand what are the inefficiencies involved in the current communication between between the stakeholders using traditional technologies. And they need to make a study to understand if they onboard all these stakeholders in their communication and build the semantics among these stakeholders on a blockchain, what will be the benefits? And then they need to start onboarding these stakeholders to a new platform, gradually doing some tests, and then press like a switch to fully migrate them into the new environment. But it takes time because most of the banking systems are legacy systems. There is not a lot of good interoperability. It needs a lot of footprinting stage in order to gather proper requirements to be in position to leverage the new technologies.
What role do you see quantum computing playing in the future of decentralized finance?
Very, very important. Why is that? Because as we know DeFi nowadays, as we know blockchain nowadays, it will be dead if quantum computers are out there and we didn't manage to have a way to migrate into the quantum resistant standards. First of all, native blockchains need to migrate to a new architecture. I know there are several projects out there, especially on Bitcoin, that are trying to map into new wallet infrastructure where several new digital signature algorithms will be used, which are quantum resistant. And this is not something that we need to consider that it's good to do. It's something that it must be done because otherwise it's going to be problematic, right? It's not going to be secure anymore. And blockchain and like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all other token-based economies are pretty much based on having everything available online. But if the keys are easily discovered through quantum algorithms, then we have to migrate now, start thinking now how to migrate into this post quantum world.
And where do you see biggest opportunities for innovation in DeFi?
Okay, now I mean, in the new era of DeFi, of course, everything is more mature. We've learned from big catastrophes in the past, right? FTX using improper tokenomics, other tokens that before, I don't know, 5, 6 years were multi billion conglomerates, now they don't exist. We moved away from this yield machine that everybody was looking a few years ago, just putting there my money, buzzword staking, I'll take the yield, I'll become rich, and so on. If you don't understand how the yield is created, you are the yield. We are talking about traditional Ponzi schemes. Now we are moving into more mature, like applications for the DeFi. For example, we see a lot of movement towards real asset tokenization. We see examples of real estate being tokenized, gold, things that happen in the actual world mapped into the blockchain world to gain the efficiency that we have. It's not about the hype anymore, it's more about mature use cases. We see also lots of advancements in zero knowledge proofs in privacy preserving tools because these privacy preserving tools will allow us to build the securitization sector into a blockchain, which will make it accessible to anyone and become more efficient. And as I've said, we are moving towards real use cases, not hype anymore. That's the good thing.
Okay, and for example, what advice would you give to businesses looking to enter in DeFi space?
First of all, they need to understand, gather a team that understands the technology first. Now, if you want to be in the DeFi, you need to understand also the economics. We have a whole study called economics theory now, where we have people studying whole ecosystem, the semantics across the different stakeholders, understand how the price of a token will appreciate or depreciate depending on different actions into the ecosystem, run some simulations, run this in a test mode, use data science to understand the behavior of the consumers, and then going live. I mean, that's the most important thing. So you need a multidisciplinary team that will be able to run a project, understanding across different sectors, angles, sorry, software engineering, cryptographic design, blockchain architecture, tokenomics, game theory, now it's very important, and then going to business either to offer consulting or to offer like product designs and
Great. And how do you envision the relationship between traditional finance and DeFi evolving?
we've seen that already. There is a marriage between these two worlds. Lots of traditional players initially were scrutinizing blockchain based like derivatives, and now if you search online, you are gonna find if you search, for example, any name of any bank and blockchain, you are gonna find an example that they are experimenting. MasterCard, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, all these companies have actually released blockchain-based products, and they realize the value of blockchain technology and they use it in order to gain operational efficiency, reduce cost, increase profitability, make the communication with customers more straightforward, and so on. Now the value is being realized. In the future, what I believe that we are not going to be talking about blockchain anymore. It's going to be a very mature technology that is really understood and it's being used in proper use cases.
Great. And because we didn't discuss about this, For example, what opportunities do you see for businesses in the UAE and Middle East region regarding DeFi adoption?
Okay, that's a very good question. I mean, we know that Middle East and MENA region in general, it's an emerging like a technology hub now. We have lots of resources going towards technology innovation. That's why we see lots of examples in Dubai, real estate tokenization in Abu Dhabi. This is a very, very big opportunity for the MENA region to attract talent, okay, and start building solutions in order to be pioneers. Okay, now there are many like low-hanging fruits that can be built. The country that will be able first to implement these innovative solutions will be remembered as a pioneer, which means we'll start attracting talent. If the talent goes to a country, then everything actually flourishes. Okay, and MENA region is doing very well at the moment on this. We know that Dubai attracts a lot of people because they really believe in technology and they want to really build the application. They have the resources, and as immediate consequence, we are going to see having everything being flourished there.
And as you wrap up, what's next for Electi? Any exciting developments on the horizon?
What we want to do as a next step, we want to like build more products, okay, in sectors that we have like a good expertise. We are now experimenting with building products using AI in order to assist auditors for financial transparency. We build products in shipping for optimizing fuel consumption, and that's offering more sustainability out there. So we are more focusing on specific problems to serve products across the different industries. And of course, we are always keep an eye on the new technologies. We already onboarded quantum experts that will be able to start working with companies in order to realize the existing risks with the current cryptographic primitives deployed across different infrastructure like areas and help our customers to migrate into the quantum resistant world.
Perfect, perfect. And for listeners who want to learn more or potentially work with Electi, what's the best way to get in touch?
If you want to get in touch, or what we do, you can always find us on LinkedIn or through email. We are open there. We can discuss your problems, and of course, we can start doing some brainstorming sessions to understand better your like problems. We are always available.
Great. So, thank you for sharing those insights about you, about your company, about the whole story, and thank you for this amazing podcast session.
It was my pleasure, Alexander, and hopefully we can have another one in the future after Quantum is here so that we can discuss more.
Great. So, see you in the next episode. Bye.